Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Paige, this is Seeking Alexandria, and you guys, I'm very excited to finally be sitting down and doing this video because if you remember correctly, or if you've been here for about a month, I did a video of a full face of high-end makeup I never tested. I will link that right up here, and in that video I mentioned to you guys that I had some drugstore products that I could do the same video with, and I had an overwhelming response to do today's video. Now, before I dive into this, let me just show you what we're working with. Show me what you're working with. Yeah, so as you can see, there's plenty of things here to choose from. Now, the goal for me in today's video is to dive in and hit the big hitters. The things that I've been staring at for quite some time that I've never had a chance to use. There's a couple big palettes, a couple eyeshadows, and overall just some products that when I picked them up, I was die-hard obsessed with using, and then somewhere along the way, they got lost in translation and I never had a chance to use them. You know, while I think about this, I'm just throwing my hair back real quick. There's only a couple products in here, I think, that are missing, and I do have other products that I've been testing out recently, so I figured I would kind of piece those in. Stuff that maybe I've tried recently on camera that I haven't used a ton, I'll probably piece in with that kind of stuff. So to get started, I want to dive in with some skin, and I want to get going with this girl right here. This is from Flower Beauty. It is the Supernova Celestial Skin Elixir, and this is basically a perfecting oil that's meant to be one of those like serum primary type situations, and I guess a lot of people really like this. I love the glass packaging, the way this looks. It has a really nice like galaxy moment feel to it, and I'm kind of excited. Ooh, I like the look of this already. Little to no smell. There's something in there I recognize. Who are you? What have you done? So let's just go ahead here and take a little bit of this. Now, because I am normal to oily, I'm mainly going to keep this like over on my cheeks. I'm going to put a little tiny bit on the forehead. Now, this is a very emollient liquid, like it's very thin. So I don't want to put a ton of this on because it does spread out very quickly. Wow, very oily. I have a feeling this is one of those products, if you are like normal to dry, this would probably be right up your alley. Girl, you better pat it in the mustache. Pat it in the mustache. So I was just giving that a second to really like settle and sink into the skin, which is a good practice to do, don't get me wrong, no matter what the primer, but especially when they're on this really thin, oily type side, I like to let them fully sink into my skin. That way they're not just like topically gonna slide all over the place. And I actually really love that. It gives like a beautiful light glow to the skin, but not through like a glitter or an over oil. It's just a really nice like I'm a healthy, I was out in the sun, that kind of a glow, and I was out in the sun but maybe got like a little bit sweaty. That kind of glow, and I'm kind of living. For foundation, I'm going to go in with something I've used several times because I am testing a new primer, and if you're new here, I really don't like to test a new primer and a new foundation together because I feel like then you can't tell which is which and what's going on. So I'm going to go in with the Catrice HD Full Coverage. I've been just loving this all over again. This is one of my favorite full coverage foundations. You get it at the drugstore. I think it's like $7 or $8.99. It's such a good foundation. Is it maybe $10? I don't know. It's right around $10 either way. And guys, this is such an amazing foundation. I use the shade 010 Light Beige, and it's just the full coverageness of this, the way it applies, it's so light on the skin. And one of the reasons I really wanted to go in with this foundation is because it does sit a little bit more on the matte side of things, so I thought it would be a good juxtaposition against that primer, just to see how it sits. Does the glowiness of the primer affect the full coverageness of the foundation? Just a lot of good comparisons I think that we can make from this foundation. Okay, so I do think that the type of primer that is did change the way that foundation applied just a little bit. Not so much in a bad way, but this foundation does look nice and glowy, which is good. That tells me that primer is really staying on and in the skin at the same time. Is it something that I would probably use for long wearing? No. Sorry, there's a cat hair on my nose. BRB. As I was saying, is it something I would probably use for long wear? No, just because I'm more normal to oily, and I think it would slough off, but I do think it gives a beautiful radiance to the skin. Now for concealer, I actually do not have a new one in this bucket. I think when it comes to concealers and foundations especially, I tend to use those pretty quickly. So I'm going to go in instead with the Milani Conceal and Perfect Longwear Concealer and shape out the face. And I'll actually link up above for you guys a video I just did, a full face of Milani, where I retested this out for the first time. And I'm using this in the shade 100 Pure Ivory. Now one of the reasons I'm picking this concealer is actually because in that video, the foundation looked atrocious on me, and I wanted to see if the concealer and the problems I had with it were because of the concealer or because of the foundation. So I thought I would give it another shot today because the brightness that this gives me under the eyes is actually really beautiful. Let's find a powder. Do 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 do. So for powders, it looks like I have 3 different choices. I have this one from Covergirl. It's their Full Spectrum Matte Ambition All Day Powder Foundation, which is in the shade Light Neutral, which looks a little bit dark, but I think that could work. I also have Kokie Cosmetics in Translucent. This is the shade SP707. It looks like this is a setting powder or a translucent finishing powder. And then from e.l.f. I have their Make It Matte powder, which this one makes me a little bit nervous. My biggest concern with this is that the #1 ingredient is silica, so I'm a little bit confizzled if I'm gonna get some flashback or not. So I'm just taking a little bit of this powder from e.l.f. here on my hand, and I'm gonna take a picture real quick with flash just to see what it looks like. Oh, let's play a game. Can you see the flashback? Girl, what? Absolutely not. The 3rd ingredient is silica in this Kokie one, so let's take a look here. Now we're also gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna do a little patch of the Kokie on my hand. Okay, all right, that one isn't nearly as bad. I actually don't even think you can see it on camera. There's just a little bit right in that region right there, but not nearly as bad. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take some of the Kokie and we're gonna use this one to set the under eye. So that powder is really, really fine and lightweight. I'm also gonna use it to set the Hulk up here, this giant wrinkle in the middle of my forehead. Now, just because I'm curious, I wanna take this one from CoverGirl on the IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe #1 brush, and I want to very lightly kind of tap all around it and lightly set the rest of my face. Now, this powder is probably gonna turn me a little dark. Oh yeah, a little bit. Just a little bit. But I still want to see what the coverage is like, because it says this is a foundation powder. So a foundation powder should have a little bit of coverage to it, right? One would think. And I'm not seeing much of any coverage from that at all. Okay guys, so here's the thing. Here's the situation. I'm back, I have the bronzer, and I turned the air on because your girl's sweating, right? But as I sat back down, I just kind of like tapped my forehead because it itched. And you know how when you put your makeup on, you don't want to like scratch your face? So you kind of like lightly and daintily tap. Well, I was doing that and I'm like, my God, my foundation feels barely set at all. Then I look up close and I think what's happening is the primer right here is so much so of an oily base that it's actually coming through and like absorbing all of the powder that I put down already. And I did go in light with the CoverGirl powder, but I didn't go in so light that it should be like absorbing it all. So this is a little bit odd, and I don't want to keep just caking on a powder that I've never used before. So I think what I'm going to do, don't mind me, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to go in with the Charlotte Tilbury. This is their Airbrush Flawless Finish powder in shade 1, and I used to use this way back in the day. It's a little bit more of a robust powder, but it's still on the finer side, so it'll be nice and fine when it applies to the skin and kind of settle in a little bit. And don't get me wrong, it's not like it looks bad or anything. I'm just not loving the way that it's like it's already at the surface, and because I'm normal to oily, I need it to not be at the surface 1 second into the situation. You know what I'm talking about? All right, I think that helped a little bit. Now I'm just gonna keep moving through the process. At this point, I've tried, and if I fail, I fail, but it's time for bronzer, and this I'm actually really excited about. I bought this specifically just so I could put it in today's video because I have wanted to try this bronzer for so long. It is the Nyx Matte Bronzer. I know you guys can't see this on camera, but in real life, this looks more like a blush than a bronzer. Did I buy a bronzer? A bronzer? Now, I do think on camera this is pulling light brown, but in real life, it's pulling a little bit like I'm about to put blush all over the perimeter of my face. So let's just do it and pray for me. So here's what I can tell you definitively. Looks like I just put rosy blush all over my face. Cool. Now sometimes bronzers and stuff can pull differently on different skin tones, so I'm not like mad about it because that can happen. It's almost like they want me to look like, instead of bronzer, like I have a sunburn, but like a very shapely sunburn. I'm not on board with that. As far as the formula goes, very nice, super blendable, applies like a dream, and a little bit goes a long way. So next up, we're gonna dive into blush, and for blush, I picked up this from BH Cosmetics. This is their Blushing in Bali 6-color blush and highlight palette, and I'm not gonna lie, do you see this top row of blushes? Mine. Ooh, okay, these colors are giving me life. Hello, stunning. Look at the highlights and the blushes. They are so gorgeous. I'm dying at those highlights. Look at what's left over on my fingers. Oh my word. So I think what I'm gonna do with these is I want to take this middle blush right here. It's kind of like a corally pink with a little bit of reflect in it. And I'm gonna take that on the Morphe JH04 brush. And I'm gonna type it, I'm gonna type in. I'm gonna tap in and I'm gonna tap back off, hello. Apply this to the cheek. Ooh, look at the difference blush. Like, hello, she's almost alive. Girl, not a chance. All right, so next up we're gonna move on to brows, and for that I did grab the Milani Stay Put brow pencil. I actually mentioned that in that full face of Milani that I was talking about, but I didn't use it in that video, so I figured this would be a great time to use it. Shade that I grabbed this in, 03 Medium Brown, and this is actually an oblong shape, which is interesting. It's more like an oval. Ooh, very creamy. The color's pretty good, but I'm trying to figure out why on earth it's this shape. Like, it's literally just a thin oval. Not a pencil, not one of those weird like half triangle things, an oval. Okay, so I'm just going through first and flicking it through the brow just to get a feel for it. And it does feel very nice and creamy. Like, wow, creamy. The payoff is great. Okay guys, Captain's log. It's been about 32 hours since my last confession. I think I just mixed about 3 metaphors there, but guys, here's the situation. I know they're not perfect. We're gonna move on past this point. Here's what I think. Good pencil, very nice and creamy. If you have to really get in there and have definition in your brows and you don't have very full natural brows, I don't know that you're gonna love this. Because for someone with no brows, like me, you have to have a lot of precision and a lot of control with your brush tip. And this is really creamy. It applied beautifully. The formula is great. The problem I have is that the shape of it doesn't give me enough control. So for that reason, it's not my favorite, but the formula is really, really nice. So next up, we're gonna go with this one. This is the Brow Gal, and it's the Insta Tint Light Hair 03 is the shade, and I actually got this from a BoxyCharm, so at least I'm assuming that's where I got it because I've never tried this before. Nothing. Is this like an actual gel? What is this thing? All right guys, so mine appears to be almost completely dry, so I'm not going to use that because I can't. So we're going to throw that away and just use a different brow gel. All right, ABH brow gel it is, because it's the only one I can find because this whole thing is a mess. Okay, you guys, brows has taken us a hot minute, but it's time to dive into eyeshadow. Now, I wrestled long and hard with what to do about the palette, and this is the palette I chose for today's video, mainly because I was so excited when this got released, and then I realized the other day I didn't show it any love at all, and that's unacceptable. This is the Come As You Are palette from Karity, and I freaking love this so much. It's inspired by the 90s, and like, guys, the 90s are my thing. These are the, oh my god, those are the colors. Okay, Living, Breathing, Dying. Okay, is this Neon? That's the shade Psych. Oh, the 90s are alive and well. Look at this. Dank. Dank is what they named this deep green. Living. Okay, time to swatch a palette. Have to do it. All right, guys, so here are the shades in the palette. I feel like some of them didn't swatch the best, but overall the color scheme here I am living for. It has a really nice mixture of like brighter colors with a fun iridescent factor to them, and then some nice like deep grungy colors, which 110% is the 90s. It was like half of us were fluorescent pink and the other half of us were like, oh my god, I just don't understand. Give me all the black eyeliner and I'm gonna shave the back of my head and put it up in a ponytail. And you also didn't see my hot pink Tweety Bird shirt because y'all, I had one and it was fire. So first things first, I'm gonna throw on some of the ABH lid primer that I've been testing out as of late. My first order of business is going to be to take the shade Psych, which is this like neon, almost iridescent yellow shade right here, and that's going right in the inner area of the eye. I think I'm actually gonna pull this one down into the inner V as well, and all the way down onto the lower lash line under the tear duct. All right, you guys, so I got that good and packed in there. I'm not mad at it. It's not as like impactful as I would have wanted, but it's also more on like the neon side of the color spectrum, and I know that those aren't as dense in opacity as other shades are, so I'm not mad at it. It looks really nice, and I think once I put a highlight over top of the inner eye, I think it's gonna look stunning. So let's keep moving. Also, look at it on the end of this brush. Oh, so satisfying. I think from there I want to try going in with the shade Live. It's like a really nice peachy shade, and I'm gonna take this on the BH Cosmetics number 9 brush and just blend that into the intersection of the eye right in the crease right there. Okay, so I'm just kind of going in here and really trying to build this shade up. I'm not mad at the way it's building up because I know it's meant to be a little bit more on like that lighter 90s side of things, but if I didn't understand like the color story and what these colors look like, I don't know that I would love this payoff, just because it doesn't build up a lot. That's like my only issue I'm having. You know what, guys, that actually came together pretty nicely. I think at first my issue was that in my head I wanted something different, but I think those two colors together look really nice, and it's just gonna be a little bit on the lighter side when it comes to pigmentation, which is okay as far as like the overall look goes. Now I am gonna go in and deepen it up. I'm gonna use the same brush here, and I'm gonna go into the shade Gwen, which is this really nice purple shade. And this shade I want to mainly use to just deepen up the outer V. Now I don't want to overwhelm it, so I'm gonna just lightly kind of fluff it and blend it in with that shade right there. I just want a nice light gradient. I don't want to pack this shade on. I'm also gonna take and run that on the lower lash line as well. Now next up, I'm gonna go in here. This is with a big old fluffy ColourPop brush, and I just want to pack on a little bit more of that shade Live right there into the center just to bridge those two colors a little bit. And then I'm going to go back in with the Morphe G13, which is the first brush I used, and I'm just going to deepen up that other color again as well, that first kind of neon shade. This eye look makes me smile because it makes me feel like I am a 90s tie-dye fairy, and I live for it, like more than I probably should. Next up, I'm going in with the e.l.f. glitter primer right here. This was actually a recommendation from you guys. A couple of you wanted me to test it, and a couple of you said it was really good. So I was like, I need to know for myself now. So I just took a little bit on the back of my hand here, and I'm going to lightly tap a thin layer all the way toward like the inner area of the eye right there. And then with my finger, I'm just going to go in with the shade Drew right here and apply. Ooh, pretty. And this shade has like a purple iridescent glitter factor to it. Oh my god, this is great. 90s page is quaking. I'm going to take this tiny little Sigma E05 and take a little bit of that glitter glue and put it up under the tear duct. And then with that same brush, I'm going to apply a little bit of that bright shade up there as well. I'm saving the inner corner of the eye for a highlight because I really want it to be poppin'. Listen to me. I'm gonna go back in with a little bit of Gwen on that same fluffy little brush here and just lightly blend it with that shimmer shade onto the lid here, just mainly at the tail end in like a wing shape. Paige, you have two eyes. You can't just go moving on to the next thing until you do both of them. Whoops. Before I go in with highlight, you guys know I like to spray my face and settle everything down. I actually don't have any new sprays, so I'll just be using sprays I've been using. But for this step, I think I want to go in and use the Morphe Preppin' Set, which is a good one anytime my skin needs to be like settled down, but I don't want to mattify and I don't want to glow. I just want like a good set base. That's what I like to use. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself a little spray. And now for something I've been waiting a long time to use, the Makeup Revolution and SophX palette. I have waited forever to use this. I think I've used the other one. I feel like they released two of these. Oh, did I swatch it and never use it? Don't get me wrong, either way it doesn't matter because I'm using this today because I am so excited. They look beautiful in the pan. They have a nice reflect to them. So the first thing I'm going to do actually is take this little lavender shade right here, and I'm going to take this shade, again, this purple lavendery shade right here, and I'm going to pack that on the inner eye. All right, so I like that shade. It went on a little bit more subtle than I thought it would, which is a little bit weird. It's not giving me like as much reflection as I thought it would, especially on camera. I'm going to take a little bit of this bright shade right here and go over it just to see if I can make it a little bit brighter. All right, I think that helped a little. It's just a little bit more of like a pungent pop. And I'm also going to take that shade and do the rest of the face, but I want to buff it in because these are a little bit more on the chunky side. So I'm actually going to take that shade on the Morphe Jaclyn Hill JH05 brush. Now this is something I've been doing a lot lately, whether or not the highlight has chunk to it. I've just been loving that buffed look when it comes to my highlight. So it is pretty big as far as the base goes. You can see all the highlight right there. There's no mirror there, and I'm like, oh, watch you what, Paige? Stare at nothing. I'm just gonna take this and lightly, like very small circular motions, just buff, and oh my god, yes, that's so good. And what I find is that even if the highlight, like for these when I swatched them, for example, they were a little bit thicker to me and I didn't like the texture, this really helps just work it into the skin. So instead of it sitting on the skin, it has a better chance of kind of settling in with the rest of my products. I don't love the way it sits. I feel like it's kind of sitting on my texture, but I'm also not mad at it. I think for a drugstore option to get this many pans that will work on this many skin tones for this many fun looks, this is an awesome little palette. Again, I'm not sure how I like it as far as the texture sitting on my skin, but I also have really textured skin, so it's gonna be textured no matter what. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and dive back in with a little bit of the Morphe spray. And then for my dewy spray, I'm gonna use the Milani Make It Dewy. I've actually used this a few times since that video, and girl, she's a dewy little queen. All right, so now it's time for mascara. This is the Kokie Cosmetics Volume and Length Mascara. Sounds promising. I like both of those things, yes. Let's go ahead and curl my lashes. Do-do-do-do. Curl my lashes. Okay, so I'm going in. This is my second coat on this eye. And what I think is really interesting about this mascara is the texture. It's very, very dry, but it's also a very thick consistency. So when you're applying it, it feels like a big, thick, like goop that you're kind of pulling through your lashes. But when you get it on, it's not making them look clumpy or spidery. Okay, so for lips, I have a couple of different options. The first one is from Jordana. This is their Twist and Shine Moisturizing Lip Stain. I just thought the color was really pretty. Probably, I mean, actually, I guess it could work for this eye look. This is in the shade 06 Cranberry Crush. Really pretty color. So that's option one. And then the other options are all from a company called Bitsy. These are matte lipstick crayons. So same type of idea, but they're not a balm. This is in shade Sandy Beach. And then we have Going Steady, which is like a mauve-y pink. And then we have Love Spell, ooh, which is really, really pretty. Okay, let's take an inventory and see what we think here. Okay, you guys, this is the finished look. And do you want to know the surprising turn of events? The Moisturizing Lip Balm 1 from Jordana, this is what I went in with, and it looks so good. Like, the color is really nice. The pigmentation is beautiful. It sits nicely on the lips, and that's not an exact match, I'll give you that, but it looks really beautiful on, and I really like this formula. Like, I would definitely use this again. Super, super comfortable and easy to apply. Let me know, what do you guys think down below? I really like the way it came together as far as the colors go. There's a couple complexion products that I'm not living for. I think that the primer is really nice. I just don't think it works well on my nose, and I don't know if I would pair it with this foundation. I think they look nice together, but my biggest issue with it is I think that it's almost repelling off of it, and I can't tell if that's my skin or the primer. So I'm definitely going to test that a little bit more. Maybe I would keep it just to the cheeks where it would look a little bit more dry or a little more cakey. But other than that, overall, I think going through, I had a really fun time. And something that I wanted to mention is that when I used the Karity palette, it didn't dawn on me, that is not something, I don't know if I said this, but that's not something you can buy in store, and the rest of this is all like actually drugstore, and that one was in my bin because it's affordable. I think the palette is like $16 or $18 or $20, something in that range. It's a much more affordable palette than like a Sephora palette is, and so it always goes in my affordable side. Karity does, but it's not something you can buy at the drugstore, so just something to clarify. But again, Karity's a really good affordable brand, and I really, really enjoy the eye look. Now, as far as the palette goes, I'm not sure if it's the most wearable. It's definitely something that you would have to be looking for that style of palette to really want in your collection, because as far as like a day-to-day wearable, I don't think it's super wearable. But I really love the aesthetic, and I love that they committed to where they were going with it. I love that. The shade names, the colors, it is on brand, which is really nice. The other products that I put on, I don't have any issues with, and it's weird because the Milani concealer is actually looking a lot better than it did. It's still a little bit creasy, but it's not nearly as bad as it was the last time I used it, which is great. I'm not, like I said, loving the complexion. I think if I had it to do over again, either I would not use that primer all over my face, or I would maybe try a different powder. I'm not sure how to fix that part yet. I'll have to get back to you. But overall, love, like I said, the colors. I like everything for the most part. There wasn't anything that I tried that was like a standout, I hate it. I have to say, I'm actually probably the most impressed with the mascara. I think it looks really nice. It went on and gave me that really nice, like, big but defined lash that you get from a false lash, which is really nice. But all of the makeup in my face aside today, I want to hear from you guys. Do you like these kinds of videos? Because I have more product going into the high end as well as the drugstore bin all the time, and I want to know if you guys want me to keep doing these videos. Are they something you're into, something you're like, I don't really like them? Personally, I love these kinds of videos just because I feel like we all see these products at random all over the place, whether it's Ulta, Sephora, drugstore, it doesn't matter. You see them and you're like, oh, I wonder if that's any good. These are the videos where you're going to find out, because that's where those kind of get sprinkled in from. So let me know down below if you want to see these kind of videos, if you like them, if you don't. I'm a big fan, obviously. I always have a ton whenever I can just get on here and create something super fun with you guys. So I like them. It's up to you guys. Let me know down below. Now, while you're down there, don't forget you can also check me out on Instagram and on Twitter. They are both linked down in the description box. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you can do that too, because y'all, I upload 5 videos a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They go up bright and early between 6 and 7 a.m. my time here in Northern Michigan. And it is bright, it is early, it is fun. And we really just like to dive into makeup. We try to hang out and just have a good time and just drink some coffee, Diet Coke with light ice, and enjoy our lives. But you guys, that is it. Thank you all so much for watching. Please do not forget to have a great day, night, weekend, whatever it is when you're watching this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. So to get started, I want to dive in with this right here. This is from Flower Beauty. It is their Supernova. Oh, you fancy? Yes, I am. But you guys, that is it. Thank you also so much. Oh my God. But you guys, that is it. Thank you. What is this dictation? But you guys, that is it. But you guys, that is it. Thank you. There it is again. But you guys, that is it. No, that was wrong too.